Have you ever wondered why the world listens to the loud, not the wise? Why do people follow those who sound sure, even when they're wrong, while ignoring the quiet brilliance sitting in the corner? You've been taught to prepare, to wait your turn, to earn it. But Machiavelli knew the truth. The world isn't ruled by the most capable, it's ruled by the most convincing. Every day you hesitate, someone less qualified walks through a door that should have opened for you. And no one stops them, because they look like they belong there. A confidence isn't about feeling ready, it's about appearing unstoppable. If that makes you uncomfortable, good, because this video isn't about comfort. It's about learning to weaponize certainty before someone else uses it against you. Right now, someone weaker than you is winning. Why? Because they look more certain. We are taught from childhood that strength wins. Strength of intellect, strength of effort, strength of moral character. But in the real world, these are secondary. What truly wins? What moves the levers of power, what opens doors, commands rooms, and decides outcomes, is confidence. Look around. In every boardroom, every political circle, every social dynamic, the most respected voice is rarely the most informed. It's the one that carries certainty. The one that doesn't flinch when challenged. The one that acts as if losing was never an option. And here's the uncomfortable truth: confidence is more visible than competence. You could be more skilled, more intelligent, even more ethical. But if you hesitate when you speak, if you look unsure when you enter a room, if your words are softened by doubt, the world will unconsciously rank you lower. Not because it hates brilliance, but because it follows conviction. The human mind by nature craves direction, and in times of uncertainty, people instinctively align themselves with those who look like they know what they're doing. That is why someone weaker than you is winning right now, not because they are better, but because they are bolder. They speak without second-guessing themselves. They claim space as if they own it. They assert ideas as if they are law, and what does the world do in return? It believes them. It listens, supports, promotes, and rewards them, simply because they look like they belong at the top. Meanwhile, you over-prepare, you wait, you polish your message, rehearse your delivery, and hope the timing is right. You keep telling yourself, I just need a little more certainty before I act. But that delay, even if it's only seconds long, is the difference between being the leader and being left behind. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He warned that power doesn't flow toward the deserving, it flows toward the decisive. The bold don't win because they are always right. They win because they appear right before anyone questions them. And once people buy into their certainty, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is not a call to arrogance. It's a call to strategic confidence. To stop waiting for the world to recognize your worth and start showing it before they ask. To stop handing over power to the loudest person in the room and instead learn how to speak with unshakable authority, even if your hands are trembling behind your back. Because the longer you wait for validation, the more you surrender to those who demand it without earning it. It's time to stop letting doubt disguise your strength. You are not losing because you are weak. You are losing because someone else has mastered the art of appearing stronger. So the question isn't, am I ready? The question is, can I project readiness before I feel it? Because in the game of power, perception isn't just part of the game. It is the game, and confidence, even when borrowed, forced, or practiced, is your first weapon. Carry it or be crushed by those who do. They speak without hesitation. They act like they deserve everything. Boldness has a peculiar power. It doesn't ask. It declares. It doesn't seek approval. It assumes it's already granted. In the game of power, boldness is not merely an attitude. It's a strategy, one that bypasses the usual gatekeepers of merit, protocol, and humility. Bold people are often believed not because they are right, but because they act like they cannot possibly be wrong. And in a world wired to trust conviction over caution, that behavior pays off. When someone speaks without hesitation, the audience, whether it's one person or 1,000, instantly lowers its defenses. It subconsciously assumes that if someone is that sure of themselves, they must know something. Boldness creates the illusion of authority, and illusion, in power dynamics, often carries more influence than truth. They act like they deserve everything, not because they've earned it, but because they understand this. People don't question those who don't question themselves. It's a psychological shortcut. We mistake confidence for competence, tone for truth, presence for power. The bold walk into rooms like they belong there, and suddenly, everyone else begins to believe they do too. You've seen it. The person who interrupts without apology, the one who speaks first in meetings and dominates conversations, the one who pitches ideas with full force, even when those ideas are untested or half-formed. And you wonder, how are they getting away with this? But the answer is simple. They're not waiting for permission to believe in themselves. And because of that, others start believing in them too. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago. He wrote not for the good-hearted, but for those who sought to understand how power truly works beneath the surface. He observed that perception shapes reality far more effectively than reality shapes perception. A prince who hesitates loses control. A leader who appears uncertain invites rebellion. But one who moves boldly, even through the fog of doubt, keeps others in awe or in fear. Either way, he keeps control. In daily life, the same law applies. You don't get what you deserve. You get what you can boldly claim without flinching. If you hesitate, you create space. Space for others to speak over you, to outshine you, to rewrite the narrative while you're still thinking through your lines. This isn't a call to recklessness. Boldness isn't about being loud or rude. It's about projecting the quiet force of someone who believes they belong in the position they're stepping into, even before anyone offers it. And here's the paradox: you don't need to feel confident to act bold. But if you act bold, confidence begins to follow. That's how the bold become believable, and the believable become powerful. So stop softening your tone. Stop waiting to be 100% ready. Stop thinking that clarity must precede action. Because in the eyes of the world, action creates clarity. And boldness, even when imperfect, will always outshine silent brilliance. If you don't take the stage, someone with less to say will. And they'll say it like they own the world, until the world starts to believe they do. You hesitate. You overthink. You wait, and someone else takes what could have been yours. There is no greater thief of opportunity than hesitation. It wears many noble disguises: preparation, caution, humility. But at its core, hesitation is a failure to act in time. And time, as Machiavelli understood, does not wait for the careful. Every moment you spend perfecting your words, someone else speaks theirs, louder, faster, and with more conviction. While you question your readiness, someone with half your talent is already occupying the position you were born for. And by the time you make your move, the doors have quietly closed. Here is a truth few admit. The world does not reward the best decision. It rewards the fastest confident one. You believe that if you just think longer, refine more, rehearse again, you will be safe. You will be flawless. But flawlessness is a myth created by people who never stepped into the arena. And while you chase it, those who understand the game are already playing it, boldly, visibly, unapologetically. Hesitation is rarely about logic. It's about fear. Fear of rejection, failure, embarrassment. But fear disguised as waiting for the right time is still fear, and it costs more than any failure ever could. It costs momentum, visibility, power. Machiavelli saw this clearly. He advised rulers not to aim for perfection, but for effective control. not to deliberate endlessly, but to strike before being struck. A prince who acts too late may have the purest intentions, but intentions don't shape empires. Decisive action does. Every day you hesitate is a day you signal weakness, not just to others, but to yourself. You reinforce the idea that you're not ready. You build the habit of deferring. You train yourself to stay behind while others pass you by. And make no mistake, the world belongs to those who move. Even if their path is uncertain, even if they trip along the way, because action is power in motion, it shifts perception, draws attention, builds gravity, and most importantly, it leaves a mark. What does hesitation leave? Silence. And in silence, no one knows your value. No one sees your potential. You disappear in a crowd of invisible geniuses, people who were almost ready, people who nearly spoke up, people who might have succeeded if they had just acted 5 seconds sooner. Here's the hard truth: you don't lose because others are better. You lose because you give them time to get ahead. You hand them the advantage by pausing when you should have pounced. So, what should you do? Act. Even when it's uncomfortable. Speak. Even when your voice trembles. Move. Even when the path isn't fully visible. Because boldness in motion beats brilliance in hiding. Every time. You don't need permission. You need momentum. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. The throne doesn't go to the most worthy. It goes to the one who steps up before anyone else dares to. Confidence isn't a trait. It's a weapon. And if you don't carry it, someone else will use it against you. We've been lied to about confidence. Told that it's a personality trait. Something you're either born with or lucky enough to develop naturally. That it's a feeling, a mindset, a side effect of success. But Machiavelli, and anyone who's truly played the game of power, knew better. Confidence is not a trait, it's a weapon, a sharp one, carried by the ambitious, wielded by the bold, and feared by the uncertain. Confidence doesn't wait for inner peace or perfect clarity. It projects power long before it exists. It creates the illusion of control, and in the world of influence, illusion is often stronger than reality. Those who rise to the top aren't always the most skilled or the most virtuous. They're the ones who learned how to use confidence as armor, leverage, and disguise. They walk into rooms without flinching. They speak with finality, not question marks. They position themselves as inevitable. Why? Because they know a secret that most never learn. If you don't appear powerful, you invite someone else to overpower you. Confidence is a tool that shapes how others treat you. When you display it, whether through posture, speech, or silent presence, the world recalibrates around you. People lean in. They follow. They hesitate to challenge. Not because they've assessed your competence, but because you radiated certainty first. And if you don't, if you walk quietly, speak carefully, and wait for approval, someone else, often with less talent and less truth, will dominate the room. They'll take your silence as permission. They'll use your hesitation as a ladder. And they'll do it boldly because they've learned to weaponize what you're still trying to earn. Presence. Machiavelli didn't glorify goodness. He exposed how power actually operates. He wrote for rulers, not saints, and what he made clear was this: appearances are everything. And confidence, even fake confidence, is the appearance that builds empires. Because when you act like you belong, people stop questioning why you do. Understand this deeply: confidence isn't about being loud. It's not about arrogance or ego. It's about psychological positioning. It tells the room, I'm not here to be evaluated. I'm here to lead. The beauty of this weapon is that it's learnable. You don't need to feel confident to look confident. You don't need certainty to speak with clarity. You simply need to practice presence until it becomes natural, until it becomes part of your armor. And that armor is necessary, because life isn't neutral. In every room, Someone is asserting dominance, subtly or overtly. If it's not you, it's being done to you. So stop treating confidence like a prize that shows up when you're finally good enough. Start treating it like the blade it is. Sharpen it, carry it, use it strategically, because if you don't, someone else will walk in unafraid, unqualified, and unapologetically bold, and they will take exactly what you were waiting for the right moment to claim. In the game of power, the confident rule. Not because they're the best, but because they dare to look like they are, until everyone else believes it. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago. The bold get ahead even if they lack the skill. Long before confidence became a buzzword in modern psychology, Machiavelli had already dissected its power in the brutal arena of politics, war, and leadership. He wasn't interested in how things should work. He described them as they actually do. And what he saw, again and again, was this: boldness beats brilliance. Certainty outruns skill. Appearances overpower facts. It's not fair, it's not moral, but it's true. Machiavelli observed rulers rise to power not because they were the wisest or the most virtuous, but because they dared more than others. They moved when others froze. They acted while others debated. They claimed thrones while more deserving men hesitated. Why does boldness work so effectively? Because people are drawn to momentum, to action. The bold create an illusion of destiny, as if their rise is inevitable. And once people start to believe that, they begin to support it. They follow, obey, invest, protect, not because they've evaluated the leader's qualifications, but because they've sensed certainty. Machiavelli didn't glorify this, he weaponized it. In The Prince, he writes that, "Fortune favors the bold, but not by luck." Boldness generates its own luck, because it forces situations to unfold around it. It pushes outcomes into existence. The hesitant, no matter how brilliant, are left behind. Their talents remain hidden in unfinished plans, unspoken words, unread resumes, unsent messages. Their ideas die quietly, not because they weren't powerful, but because they weren't asserted. And here lies the Machiavellian truth: most people refuse to accept power doesn't reward the qualified. It rewards the daring. The world doesn't crown those who wait to be discovered. It crowns those who announce themselves, who force the world to notice. You've seen it play out. In politics, business, art. The bold step up and take space. The hesitant shrink back, convinced they're not quite ready. But here's the twist: no one is ever fully ready. Boldness isn't about being prepared. It's about appearing so sure that no one even thinks to challenge you. Machiavelli knew this and trained rulers to embody it. He advised them not to appear good, but to appear strong, not to be loved, but to command respect, not to wait for approval, but to assert dominance. This advice still holds, not just for kings, but for anyone trying to lead, influence, or rise in a world that responds more to signals than substance. So if you're waiting until you're good enough, stop. Boldness is what puts you in the arena. Skill can be sharpened later. But if you never step forward, no one will ever know what you were capable of. And here's the irony: those who rise boldly are often rewarded with time and resources to develop the very skills they lacked at the start. So you must ask yourself, will you wait until the moment is perfect? Or will you declare that now is your time, even if you feel imperfect? Because boldness opens doors that brilliance only dreams of. The future doesn't belong to the best, prepared. It belongs to the first to move with certainty, just as Machiavelli warned. Power doesn't belong to the best, it belongs to the most certain. We live in a world that claims to value intelligence, expertise, and logic. But when it comes to who holds influence, who gets followed, who rises, these are not the deciding factors. If you look closely, you'll see a different pattern. It is not brilliance that commands the world. It is certainty, not the most correct but the most convinced, not the most capable, but the most compelling. The one who walks like they belong, talks like they cannot be questioned, and behaves as if doubt never enters their mind. Even when it does, that is the person the world instinctively follows, because most people are not seeking truth, they are seeking clarity. And in the face of uncertainty, clarity always comes from certainty, not from credentials. We've all witnessed it. In the meeting room, the loudest voice wins. In elections, the most confident promises override the most thoughtful plans. In everyday life, someone with less experience but more conviction takes the role. The contract, the attention, this isn't a glitch in the system. It is the system. People gravitate toward those who look like they know where they're going. Because certainty is magnetic, it calms confusion. It makes complexity seem simple. It silences alternatives, not by disproving them, but by making them seem irrelevant. And this is where brilliant people often fail. They know too much. They see too many angles, too many risks, too many variables. So they hesitate, qualify their statements, pad their certainty with cautious language, all in the name of accuracy. They believe the truth will rise on its own. But truth doesn't rise, it has to be carried, and carried with force. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He warned that hesitation is interpreted as weakness, and brilliance is invisible if it isn't projected with authority. He taught that rulers must appear unwavering, even when they aren't. Because power is perception, and perception follows the path of least resistance. Certainty. He never said the bold are always right. He said they're always believed first, and that belief is power. Certainty makes people second, guess themselves before they question you. It makes your flaws seem smaller and your claims sound stronger. It blinds people to the cracks in your logic simply because you don't flinch while delivering it. And here's the most Machiavellian truth of all. The moment you look unsure, someone else becomes sure in your place. In every power dynamic, the one who appears most certain is the one people bet on, regardless of evidence, credentials, or even past failures. Because certainty signals leadership, it fills the void where others hesitate. So if you're brilliant but invisible, insightful but silent, wise but uncertain, understand this: you're not losing because you lack knowledge. You're losing because you lack visible certainty. You don't need all the answers. You just need to deliver the ones you have like they're final. Because the room doesn't follow the one who whispers truth. It follows the one who declares it, loudly, confidently, and without apology. Power doesn't ask, who's right? It asks, who seems sure? And until you understand that, you'll keep watching people with half your ability take everything you're waiting to deserve. The lion does not chase the eagle. He owns the ground he walks on. A power is not about playing every game. It's about choosing the right arena and making sure it's one where you dominate. There's a deadly mistake ambitious people often make. They step into battles simply because they feel provoked, because someone questioned them, because their ego felt cornered, because they want to prove something to themselves, to others, or to history. But this is the trap, because not all arenas are winnable, and not every fight is worth your energy. Machiavelli warned us. A wise man calculates his terrain before he draws his sword. Look at those who rise in power, the kings, CEOs, presidents, movement builders. They don't run toward every fight. They're selective, strategic, even cold-blooded in their refusal to engage where the odds don't favor them. They understand something the average person doesn't. To enter a game you can't control is to forfeit power. Not because you're weak, but because you've handed control to someone else's rules, someone else's battlefield, someone else's tempo. In warfare, this is called forced positioning. The opponent baits you into a terrain they've mastered, terrain where your strengths become irrelevant and your weaknesses are exposed. In politics, this happens all the time. A skilled leader avoids debates where their opponent thrives. They don't chase arguments on subjects that dilute their image. They don't reply to every insult, because every response pulls them into someone else's game. In life, you see this every day: the brilliant thinker who steps into a PR war and loses, the seasoned expert who tries to out-entertain a charismatic fool, the calm leader who gets dragged into emotional drama and suddenly looks unstable. They forget the moment you compete where you cannot win, your power bleeds. Machiavelli would say, never fight unless the outcome benefits you, even in defeat, and never fight unless you've stacked the odds before the game begins. So what do you do instead? You redraw the field. You change the game entirely. You refuse to be provoked by noise, distraction, or false urgency. Let others chase applause, you chase advantage. Let others play wide, you play deep. Let others try to win every argument, you win the ones that shape the room. This principle is not about cowardice, it's about discipline. About knowing your power lies not in how many battles you fight, but in how few you have to fight to remain untouchable. Every act of restraint builds your mystique. Every refusal to step down to petty ground raises your profile. Every battle you walk away from strengthens your position, even if it weakens your ego in the moment. Because here's the secret no one tells you: the most powerful person is not the one who wins the most fights, it's the one who chooses the fewest, and always wins those. Power is territorial. Know your terrain. Own it, and never chase eagles when you are born to rule the jungle. The sheep smiles, unaware that the wolf is not sleeping, he's studying. Power is not always taken with a sword. Sometimes it's taken with silence. The most dangerous individual is not the loudest in the room, not the one flaunting confidence or boasting of victories. The truly dangerous one is quiet. He listens, he watches, he lets others grow comfortable, even arrogant, while he sharpens the blade beneath the table. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He believed that perception is a weapon, and false comfort is a trap. When people think they've figured you out, they relax, they stop watching closely, they underestimate, and in that fog of ease, you rise unseen. This is where transformation happens, not in the spotlight, not during applause, but in the shadows, where your evolution is hidden, where no one prepares for your next move because they've already convinced themselves you're no threat. Let others laugh. Let them see your flaws and assume that's all there is to you. Let them define you by your past. While they're anchored in your history, you're rewriting your future. Remember, your greatest weapon is the illusion of predictability. People protect themselves from visible threats, but from what they cannot see, they don't defend at all. This principle runs deep in every great strategist. The lion does not roar while stalking prey. The chess master doesn't announce checkmate until the board is already lost. Even in statecraft, the most effective rulers were those who appeared less ambitious than they were. They allied while quietly undermining. They smiled while shifting the balance of power. They made friends feel safe, until safety became their greatest mistake. You don't need to announce your ambition. You don't need to advertise your progress. Silence is not weakness. It's cover. While others spend their energy defending their territory, you're expanding yours unnoticed. This principle also protects your energy. When people don't expect much from you, they don't stand in your way. They don't prepare counters. They don't build walls. And that absence of resistance gives you freedom, freedom to grow without friction. The modern world rewards visibility, but power rewards stealth. Build your skills when no one is watching. Acquire knowledge without broadcasting it. Forge alliances quietly. Learn every game, while pretending you only know checkers. Here's what happens when you master this. Your enemies don't know how to guard against you. Your competitors prepare for a version of you that no longer exists. Your circle underestimates you and overexposes themselves, and by the time you move, it's already too late for them to catch up. You see, the goal isn't to be feared immediately. The goal is to be ignored until you're unavoidable, to be forgotten until you are unforgettable. So, play the fool, but be no fool. Let them believe the surface, while you deepen your reach. Let them feel secure, while you become a storm behind closed doors. Power grows in silence, dominance begins in doubt, and the most lethal strike is always the one they never saw coming. Let them sleep peacefully. You, on the other hand, stay awake. Stay patient. Stay dangerous. Strength is not cruel. It only looks that way to those who are ruled by it. There is a peculiar trend in society. The moment you become strong, people ask you to shrink. Not physically, not obviously, but emotionally, psychologically, politically. They whisper, tone it down. Be more humble. Don't make others uncomfortable. But let's be clear, the uncomfortable are not oppressed, they're exposed. Your strength reminds them of what they failed to become. And that discomfort, it's not your burden to carry. Machiavelli knew the power of strength, not just in the sword, but in the soul. He warned rulers never to show weakness where strength is expected, and more importantly, to never seek forgiveness for having the will to dominate, build, protect, or rise. When you apologize for your strength, you validate their fear. You confirm to the weak that power must come with guilt. And once guilt enters your posture, control begins to slip. But here's the truth Machiavelli whispered to princes and leaders: power must not apologize for its nature. It must exercise it ruthlessly, wisely, and unapologetically. You're not meant to make everyone comfortable. You're not here to be digestible. You're here to be effective. And effectiveness is rarely soft. Strength disrupts illusions, it cracks facades, it draws envy, fear, admiration, sometimes all at once. But what it never does, it never pleases everyone. Why do people ask you to tone it down? Because your existence forces them to confront their stagnation. Your focus magnifies their distraction. Your ambition reveals their complacency. Your clarity unsettles their excuses. You were not built to be accepted. You were built to lead, to endure, to stand firm when others bend. If they call it arrogance, let them. If they brand you cold, let them. If your silence unsettles, or your vision intimidates, so be it. You don't owe softness to a world that only respects results. Strength is not the enemy of virtue. Weakness is. Weakness dresses up as kindness. It preaches modesty while envying mastery. It smiles at your rise while praying for your fall. Don't be fooled. Don't trade your fire for their comfort. The world doesn't belong to the apologetic. It belongs to those who dare to be unapologetically powerful. Even in leadership, real leadership, strength isn't about shouting or dominating. It's about presence. A firm gaze that says, "I'm not here to ask for permission." It's about refusing to dilute your worth just to be accepted by those who've never built anything. Strength makes the weak nervous. Not because it's wrong, but because it's a mirror, and most people can't face what they see when you stop pretending to be less. So what should you do? Stand tall when they beg you to crouch. Speak clearly when they ask you to soften your tone. Lead directly when they hope you'll defer. Build louder when they tell you you're too ambitious. Because once you apologize for your strength, you begin to dismantle the very foundation of your influence. The lion does not ask the gazelle to feel safe. The storm does not ask the sea to remain calm. And power should never ask for approval to exist. Let them feel nervous. Let them whisper. Let them recoil. Because if your strength unsettles them, you're finally becoming undeniable. The loud climber rarely reaches the summit. The quiet one is already there before anyone notices. The art of rising is not about spectacle. It's about strategy. And in Machiavelli's world, and the real one, the most dangerous move you can make is telling the world You're about to make one. Many waste their energy broadcasting their ascent. I'm starting something big. Watch me take over. I'm coming for the top. But what does that really do? It gives your enemies time to prepare, it alerts your rivals, and worst of all, it feeds the envy of those who will now work tirelessly to sabotage what you haven't even built yet. Machiavelli's law is this: if you must rise, rise like the tide, not like a trumpet. Let your success hit them like a storm they didn't see coming, fast, quiet, irreversible. Too many confuse ambition with announcement, but announcing your moves drains their momentum. The strongest empires were not built in the spotlight. They were forged in silence, tested in obscurity, and revealed only when undeniable. Ask yourself, do you want admiration during the process, or awe at the outcome? Because you can't have both. The weak crave validation. Look at me trying! The powerful crave victory. Say nothing until it's done. And by the time they speak, to stop them. Silence is not inaction, it's incubation. Work quietly. Discipline quietly. Build quietly. Invest, train, refine, out of sight, not because you're afraid, but because strategy requires shadows. When a general moves his troops, he doesn't send invitations, he strikes where no one was looking. And by the time the city wakes up, the gates already belong to him. That's how you rise. Fast, because hesitation is a luxury only the knave can afford. When your moment comes, take it. Don't wait for applause or signs, because the longer you delay, the more enemies awaken. Quiet, because noise attracts noise. Announce nothing. Let results speak. Let others explain what you did, while you're already on to the next conquest. Final, because there's no nobility in half ascents, no room for almost. If you climb, climb all the way, and when you arrive, plant your flag so deep that the mountain forgets anyone else ever tried. People respect the final blow, not the build-up. They won't remember how long it took. They'll only remember how suddenly it happened. So rise with no rehearsal, no trailer, no teaser. Let your ambition be a secret until it becomes a standard. Let them wonder how you did it. Let them say, he was just here yesterday. And today, he's already above us. That confusion, that shock, that's how you win without fighting. And if they call it luck, let them. The truth doesn't need defending. Your rise speaks louder than any explanation. Lions don't declare the hunt. They just appear when it's already too late. Rise, quietly, swiftly. Finally, let your silence be the storm they never prepared for. So now you've seen it. The anatomy of ambition and the shadow it casts. Not the polished version taught in motivational speeches, not the sanitized dream sold in glossy books, but the real game, the one Machiavelli whispered about in the courts of princes and behind the masks of power. Every keynote was not advice. It was a mirror held up to your instincts, your fears, your hunger. And now you must ask, do you want power or the illusion of it? Do you crave peace or simply the absence of challenge? Will you command the game or be played by it? Because power does not wait for permission. It does not reward noise. It does not pity hesitation. It rewards clarity. It rewards discipline. It rewards those who master themselves before they master others. You don't have to be a tyrant. You don't have to be cruel, but you do have to be strategic, and you must be willing to see the world not as it should be, but as it is. That's the Machiavellian lens. Not pessimism, but perception. Not manipulation, but mastery. He who sees everything as it is, and still moves forward. That man is truly free. So here is your call to action. Stop apologizing for your ambition. Stop explaining your vision to people who can't carry it. Stop waiting for perfect timing. Be the timing. Move in silence. Study without ego. Build without approval. Act when others hesitate. And rise when they still sleep. Let the world find out what you've become only when it's too late to stop you. Because as Machiavelli knew, In a world driven by power, silence is strategy and victory is the only reply that matters. Now go, not louder, not softer, but wiser.